join us tonight. I think it's going to be a very interesting event, one that I've been looking forward to for quite some time. Tonight, we delve into the mind in a very interesting way, and we explore a subject that I've been fascinated with for quite some time, memory. And I've always been fascinated with how memory works, and every time I tried hard to remember something and found myself physically straining to remember it, then I would think to myself, what is my brain doing? How am I experiencing this stress? And when I came across our guest tonight on the internet reading some information about memory, I thought, what a fantastic person to bring to the Bowers Writers House, because not only could it be an interesting and fun event, but selfishly enough, this was an event that I really wanted to see and be a part of. And so I'm very excited to have our guests here tonight. And before we begin, I'd like to tell you just a little bit about both of them. Our guest of honor tonight here in the Bowers Writers House is Brad Williams, who's the author of Triviazoids and one of a handful of people who's ever been studied for the syndrome dubbed super autobiographical memory.
Highly superior.
Highly superior.
HSAM.
Yes, highly, totally grand, amazing, superior autobiographical memory by researchers at the, make that note, yes, at the University of California in Irvine. He has been described as the human Google by Good Morning America and has appeared on 60 Minutes, NBC Nightly News, Jimmy Kimmel Live, Live with Regis and Kelly, and CNN. He currently works as a radio news anchor on WKTY and Classic Hits 94.7 in La Crosse, Wisconsin. And talking with him tonight will be our own Dr. John Teske, who's a professor of psychology here at Elizabethtown College. He's taught in most of the subfields of psychology and has published empirical research on close relationships, nonverbal behavior, environmental psychology, and cognitive development. He's a past president of the Institute on Religion in an Age of Science, who has also elected him an academic fellow in 2010. Very exciting event we have here tonight. I'm really glad that all of you could join us. So let's welcome both Brad Williams and Dr. John Teske to Bowers Writers House.
Well, I'd like to get into talking with Brad pretty quick about, we always have this hard thing, is his memory so good because he's so smart, or does he just seem so smart because he's got this incredible memory? So the first question I want to ask him, since he's so good with dates, is what happened on February 19th, 1600?
Well, it was the great hangover after the great drunken fest of February 18th, 1600, if I recall. So.
A good fake answer. You don't know that there was an important and famous figure that something happened to on that day?
Well, in that case, it'd probably either be Queen Elizabeth or Shakespeare if it was 1600.
Ooh, close. This person actually met both Queen Elizabeth, and his work was used by Shakespeare in Design Globe Theater.
Well, okay, you got me on that one.
Well,
time to leave.
No, this is actually to make a point, because you have a very particular kind of memory, and I just asked you a general memory item. I was actually giving you my personal hero, Giordano Bruno, who also wrote 6 books in the latter part of the 16th century on mnemonics, and actually on his way to being burned by the Roman Inquisition was reciting one of his books from memory. And they drove a spike through his tongue one direction and a spike through his tongue the other direction to shut him up. Now that's interesting. But he was a mnemonist, and there was a whole art of memory, well used then, because this is right about the time you start to get things appearing in print.
Right.
So it's valuable to be able to just remember tons of stuff. Mostly for us, we just Google it or talk to you.
Yeah.
So I guess
if you can find me, then
I guess the first issue is what is different between just using mnemonics, which most of you know from general psych class and so forth, and the particular kind of thing that you have.
Right. Well, if you were to type me in on Wikipedia, and there may be more than one Brad Williams on Wikipedia, but I've generally just looked for me. Who doesn't? You Google yourself, and you can find me listed as Brad Williams mnemonist, which is not accurate. But then Wikipedia doesn't let you fix your own page. So whoever put that there is of the impression that this is a person who's good at memorizing 10,000 digits of pi.
Right.
Or who has certain tricks to remember, to professionally remember things or win memory contests. That's not this. This is somebody who has a natural ability to remember a lot of things and tie them to certain dates, which is what University of California, Irvine has been studying for 12 years now. Started with one woman, and that took 6 years, and they put out a research paper saying, we've never seen anything like this before, and this is the only person we know of. My younger brother read about that 6 years ago, said, well, that's you. Why don't you talk to the doctors? And my brother was living in California at the time, an hour away from Irvine, so why don't you come out sometime, maybe we can get them to give you a test, and maybe they'll study you. And they gave me a test, and they've been studying me for 6 years now, and there have been more people coming in, and it's up to about a dozen people now who are being studied for this particular type of memory, and they think there might be about 30 people or even more by now who have the level of memory that they've been looking at, but they're not studying everybody. But it's something that people are fascinated by, and I've come to Pennsylvania for it.
It's tied very much to autobiography, though.
Yes.
So if I gave you dates before you were born, they'd be a lot more difficult to come up with things for.
A little more difficult,
like February 19th, 1600, which
that's
I
right.
Some good guesses for.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, here's a date that is in your lifetime.
If it was February 19th, 1971, for example.
What happened then?
In the town where I grew up in Wisconsin, the sky turned dark at about 10 o'clock in the morning.
It was.
Nighttime dark. And it wasn't just there, it was within maybe 100-mile radius in southern Wisconsin and Iowa and Minnesota. And they think it was, atmospheric, some sort of wintry ice phenomenon that was blocking the sunshine. And it was a cloudy day anyway, but I was in a theater at our high school in a class, and then we come out at the end of the class and the street lights are on in town, and it looks like it's 10 o'clock at night. And it's like, when did this happen? I mean, it gradually happened while we were inside. We didn't know, and other people were saying what's happening. And it lasted for maybe 20 minutes or so, and people had no idea what it was about. But I have remembered that to this day. That was February 19th of 1971.
So these
Friday,
are very significant, but autobiographical movies. Well, here's one from your lifetime. Do you know when my son was born?
He told me a couple of hours ago, and now I'm trying to stick it to a specific date, and unfortunately I'm blocking that out.
Okay,
right now.
Well, here's a hint. I used to have a much harder time remembering. I think I can do it better now because I've tied it to a particular other
Oh, that's
day.
right. Okay, yes. This came up at dinner, and John says his son was born 3 days after the fall of the Berlin Wall, which makes it November 12th, 1989.
I didn't know that because I didn't connect what date that was that the Berlin Wall came down, except I watched this movie a couple of days ago with my film class, and they talked about the end of that, and then you mentioned it in your talk, November 9th, 1989. I thought, oh my God, that was 3 days later my son was born. No wonder I don't remember that date. I don't remember my son's birthday very well either. And that's certainly something that ought to have a fair amount of personal significance to me.
Sure.
But then there's the ones that have so much significance to you. But there's a lot of other dates that don't. I mean, why would November 9th, 1989 have personal significance to you?
Because that's the day the Berlin Wall opened up.
Okay.
And I'm not sure why. And the funny thing is that was just a few days after there was a Russian exchange group between the city of Dubna, Russia. There is a chemical element named after Dubna, just within the last few years. It's a scientific community. And La Crosse, Wisconsin have had a sister city partnership for more than 25 years. The first official visit of this is going to be great. The Soviet Union and the United States, and we're going to get together, was in November of 1989, and maybe 2-3 days after they left, is when the Berlin Wall opened. I was like, ooh, this is happening fast.
Now, interesting. So, do you then remember that date because of those significant events?
It could be because that was about a 2-week visit,
Okay.
and there were many things going on.
So you have
I was
something
active in the planning for that visit. So,
significant in your life that you then can connect a larger outside event to.
I
And
think
we
so.
have an interesting time in our general psychology class when we talk about flashbulb memory. I don't know if any of you remember this, and we usually give examples of a major public event that everyone sort of remembers what they were doing and what they were feeling at the time. In my era, that was Kennedy's assassination. Yes, I'm that old. But then I would use the Challenger disaster. And recently, we've been using 9/11 as the example. But even as our population gets younger, that's a harder and harder one to use. So the personal significance of things changes. So what's personally significant for you is history for these guys.
right.
Like, well, how many of you were born after November 9th, 1989? So that's not likely to be an event that has any personal significance for you ever, unless you thought, gee, on October 18th, 2012, I saw the talk at which I decided to become a psych major. And I remember them mentioning, I mean, you get doubling up on any of those like that you get confused dates because you have a significant date mentioned another significant date?
It could happen. I mean, I've mentioned in a talk earlier today that for some reason there will be something I'm absolutely sure that I remember it happened on a certain date, and I was maybe a week off or 10 years off because I was thinking of the wrong year ending in 4. But it doesn't happen that often, but my family says, well, the fact that it happens at all is something that should be studied.
Means you're not perfect.
Yeah, it's
means
like,
it's
well,
not
how
an
does that
occult
happen?
power.
If
Yeah.
you're right all these other times, how come you're not right on this one?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, Bruno partly got burned because he was obviously possessed by demons and occult powers because he had these powers of memory.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're
Well, nobody's
flawed
tried
makes you
burning
human.
me, so that's
Yeah.
I'm happy about that.
Well, but it's not just dates and significant events, regardless of whether they have autobiographical significance. You're a smart guy, which is why when I asked him what the atomic number of plutonium was, he could tell me.
Yes.
Even though it's something I asked my kids month after month, every time they were smart Alex, I'd say, so, what's the atomic number of plutonium? And they could never tell me. But then I didn't know what it was either, and it is.
94.
Anyone know that this is right or not? We have confirmation? So you can try something.
That's what you have the Google for.
That's right, that's what's Google.
We'll get to that.
But if you,
Okay.
it's like,
So, part of what-
but if you know, it's like it helps to know that uranium is 92. Uranium 92, Neptunium 93, plutonium 94.
I'm sure I'll
They didn't
remember
knock
that.
plutonium out of the elements just because Pluto isn't a planet anymore.
Really?
So
They knocked out the elements too?
no,
I
no, I
didn't
said
think
they
so.
did. No,
Okay, but it's no longer a
you'd
planet.
have to be pretty strange to drum an element out of it.
Okay, when did Pluto cease to be a planet?
Was it within the last 5-6 years? I didn't memorize what date that was, but
Okay,
it was
so you would
just
have had to
recently.
memorize the date because there wasn't necessarily anything particularly...
It didn't matter to me whether it was a planet or not. I wasn't going there.
So it is about stuff that matters to you, and tying it to stuff that matters to you.
Yeah.
I mean, you said before you couldn't like memorize War and Peace, that you're terrible
Well,
with
I
names.
could, but it's not high on my list. So
Right.
Yeah.
You would have the ability because you could connect it. One of the things I'm telling students all the time is you need to be active to remember stuff. That means tying it with as many associations as you can to as many different things as you can. You've got a lot more of those because of this autobiographical,
Right. Hyperthymesia is the original name that they gave it, which they
Hyperthymetic
switched
syndrome.
to
Yeah,
HSAM.
which is why I was confused when it said hyper-mnemonic, and I know it's not mnemonism, which is using those specific kind of tricks.
Right.
Like Shakespeare might have been trying to help his actors do when he designed the Globe Theater as he did, built on some of the writings of the art of memory people about how you organize space in which you can localize things. But you don't have to play that game.
No.
This stuff comes to you.
And a lot of, and I found out you're a trivia player. Jesse's a trivia player. I'm a trivia player, and the good trivia players hope to have information that just comes out the split second right when you hear the question, and you don't even have to worry about it. And that's what they're studying this group of people for, wow, how come you know that right away and you don't even have to think about it?
So when Jesse was talking about that struggle to try to remember something when you can't, this is not that. It's not a trick. It's not an effort that you make to do it. It just comes to you. Now, when did you realize you had this?
When I was playing trivia, basically. But within the last 20 years, there is satellite trivia buzz time, which you may or may not be familiar with, depending on where you go. You know, it's very popular, Buffalo Wild Wings, for example, and they my favorite game that I play there is on Friday nights. They have a game about entertainment, and a specific round they have is they'll give you a list of pop cultural events. Like, okay, here somebody was born in this. They're all the same year. This is like so and so was born. This was the best picture. This show started on TV, and you have to, you know, the earlier you figure out what year it was, the more points you get. And routinely, I get a lot of points, and the other people in the bar are like down here.
Don't you have a whole website on this stuff?
On that, I don't have a specific website on
dates
that.
to particular things?
Well,
What is Triviazoids do?
Triviazoids is more of an almanac
Okay.
of trivia, which I have found ways to connect in sometimes bizarre, circuitous routes.
So
But
some of the stuff you
found
remember-
some kind of connection between things that wouldn't necessarily have a connection. They just happen on the same day.
Give an example.
Well, see, today is October 18th, and the one that leaps to mind is the fact that two well-known football players who became coaches, Mike Ditka and Forrest Gregg, have the same birthday, not the same year, but both October 18th, and they were the opposing coaches in a very famous Monday Night Football game of October 21st, 1985. At least famous for people like me who are either fans of the Packers or the Bears. And the Bears won that game. It was the debut of William the Refrigerator Perry. Not necessarily the debut, but the night that he suddenly became known to the rest of the country and scored. A big guy scoring touchdowns, and he was popular for a couple of years. But that was a
Packers or
sensation.
the Bears win that game?
The Bears won the game.
Ooh.
Yes.
Do you remember?
And
it better
they won the
because
Super Bowl that season.
Your opposing team won the game and the Packers didn't, since the Packers were Wisconsin and so are you?
Yeah. Well, and I was living in Nebraska at the time, but I was still watching the game. So.
Oh, I'm still a Packers fan. Grew up in Madison. I'd never stopped that.
Yeah.
But again, part of this is what you do because of the personal significance that enables you to tie those things together that someone otherwise wouldn't have. When I'm reading about Bruno and I find out that he was called the Nolan, it just blows me away because Christopher Nolan directed Memento, which was also about memory. Now, that doesn't mean anything to anybody else, but that's significant to me because those are both figures that have a lot to do with understanding, studying memory, both in contemporary era and back in the 16th century. So that's significant for me. So I'll remember that one.
Yeah.
Like I'll remember the Berlin Wall date now better because it's my son's birthday 3 days later and vice versa.
Right.
Because there was also 3 days that Christ was in the tomb. No, there's all sorts
Now
of ways.
okay, now you can write the second. You can do a spin-off of Triviazoids. It's like
Right,
you
right.
see it, you do this.
But the point is, you have more connections. You can remember a lot of other stuff better because of the density of connections you have, because of those personal significance.
Or in putting together this Triviazoids website and trying it is a complete website. There are things for all 366 days on the calendar, and the idea was to basically look at, okay, I'll bring up October 18th on Wikipedia or some other place. Let's see. And I'll pick up ones that seem to have a connection, and if there's not an obvious connection, but I want to have the two things in there, it's like, well, there must be some way
So you make
to
it-
two or three or four steps to get there, but sometimes it's just another.
What was the Leonard one?
The Leonard one was December 12th.
Okay.
You want me to go into that one?
That
Okay,
one's
yeah,
cool.
because that's sort of the prime
This might be
example.
personally relevant to you guys because it's about
The prime
big
example.
band.
No. Okay, the prime example is December 12th, and this is a website where I use to find, if I find really cool just bits of trivia that I want to know, I can put them in here. Like, I wanted to know what date and year Bruce Springsteen recorded, "Hey band, what time of year is it?" The Santa Claus is Coming to Town that you always hear on the radio every year. And found out it was December 12th, 1975, on a college campus. And so, okay, well, I want to put that in December 12th. And let's see, anything else happened? And I found that that same day, December 12th, 1975, is the birthday of Mayim Bialik of the Big Bang Theory. It's like, okay, is there any way to connect these two? I could just say, and on that same day, but if there was some interesting way to connect those two together, which is like a trapezoid, which is why it's called Triviazoids. I found out that the Bruce Springsteen concert was at C.W. Post College, Long Island, New York. C.W. Post College named after the founder of Post cereals, makers of Alphabets and Crispy Critters. Was a very popular, when we were kids,
Yeah,
Crispy Critters was a popular Post cereal, and there was a cartoon show for a couple of years called Linus the Lionhearted, which was basically a half hour of cartoons based on Post cereal commercials. You couldn't get away with that today, but they did in 1964. And it's like, okay, it's Linus the Lionhearted, and he's the lion, the king of the jungle, and who are we going to get to play the voice of Linus the Lionhearted? You're going to get Sheldon Leonard, famous actor. Sheldon Leonard, where do you know those names from? Big Bang Theory.
What?
Yeah. And that's how you get to Mayim Bialik.
Now, it takes a smart guy, like with digit span, to link a big long line of things together. But that's what you do when you learn stuff. You link new things you know with other things you already knew, because that makes them more vivid. That makes them more important to you. That makes you more likely to be able to find other ways to connect them up.
I just have so much stuff in there that it's like they're going to collide with each other one way or another. It's like, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Well, and one of the problems with something called the paradox of the expert is usually when we know too many things, we just get confused.
Mm-hmm.
And the paradox of the expert is that experts actually are better at it, even though they know more. That's the paradox. They know more, but they get at it faster, and they know it better than somebody that is not an expert.
Yeah.
What makes somebody an expert?
That's what they're trying to figure out. That's what they're trying to study us for. One of the things they've hooked on is there's a part of the brain, the caudate nuclei, that they've discovered in the people they're studying, the 11 who've been identified with the higher form of memory, have a significantly, exponentially larger part of the brain that helps with memory and storing memory than the average person. I think that may have something to do with it, but it's chicken and the egg. Is it bigger because these people are good at it, or is it that somebody with that part that's this size is going to be able to retain more memories? They haven't figured that out yet.
Well, one of the suggestions you made is arguments that people sometimes give you that it's just, some advanced form of obsessive compulsive disorder.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, you find a more active caudate nucleus in those with OCD.
Yeah.
Now, it's not larger, it's more active. You get a stronger image on an fMRI. What's the difference between size and activity, and do you think it's just OCD?
I don't know. I'm not the researcher, and they seem to have linked to that, but it's going to require a lot more study unless they just come up with something that completely reveals it to everybody immediately. But that's one of the areas that they're zeroing in on anyway.
But you've always been a smart kid.
Yeah,
So a lot of the
and
stuff
it's not
you do-
necessarily. I mean, a lot of the people who have been studied for this type of memory didn't necessarily get good grades in school.
Right.
And there are so many different forms of memory. There's sight memory. There's the ability to remember a story you've heard once, then come back to it an hour later and remember details of it, which I'm not too good at that one. Or you can remember a series of numbers, or you can look at a design and then draw it from memory and with no problem. that it's not just one kind of thing. If you have a good memory, it might be you're good at the 5 types of memory here and bad at the 3 types of memory here.
But some of your personally significant events are things like doing good in a spelling bee,
Yeah.
or doing good in a quiz show program. So some of your background, of things that are important to you autobiographically, are things that have to do with things that you would have memorized a list of words, memorized a list of possible things.
Sure.
So what the heck happened to you on Jeopardy?
The bad categories. Well, the thing that happens to anybody on Jeopardy is that you can have categories you don't like. You can have somebody who's just third of a second faster than you on that particular question. And
You cleaned up on one of them, though, right?
I cleaned up on the 1984 movies.
Ah,
I got all of those
because you like entertainment.
because I
stuff.
saw all of those movies, as it turned out. I had seen The Karate Kid and Moscow on the Hudson and all of me.
So a lot, and again, this is about personal relevance. This is about what you find exciting and interesting that you then code more and have more associations to, simply because it has greater personal significance. But it looks like you got a lot more things that have personal significance than maybe the rest of us do.
Or at least they're fast. I don't know if it's more. I think there are a lot of people who have many things of personal significance. And the theory that runs in my family, if you can call it something that runs in the family, is that maybe everybody has an equal amount of things that are stored in your memory, but some people are wired differently to get it faster than the normal person. So I don't know if that will turn out to be what it is, but
That probably has something to do with, again, just coding more connections. But I mean, one of the things that happens when you age, for example, is you get a lot slower. It takes you more time. Not because you don't remember it, but because it takes you longer. You have this theory about the mouse in the maze.
the mouse in the maze, yeah. That
Good Morning America, you missed the first
good
question.
morning. We could probably run that.
We absolutely can.
Yes, and then that'll be the next page.
Just give it a second.
Where is it?
Yeah, Good Morning
Or-
America.
Yeah, Good Morning America, and this my first big experience on national TV, other than Jeopardy. Jeopardy came about several years before that.
They call this man human Google. He's the put to the test against people Googling, and he gets there faster with all the information. We want to know who he is and what about his brain. You're going to meet this astonishing man this morning.
Astonishing. No pressure. No pressure at all.
You're walking along the street or at a party.
Sabina, the Good Morning America segment producer, arrived to lead Brad to the studio for his first live appearance on national television.
Realize this could be the start of something big.
If somebody asks me a trivia question or a date, and if it doesn't come out right away, it's sort of like the rat in the maze looking for the cheese, and then maybe a minute or 5 minutes or an hour later, you'll finally get to the end of the maze. You might have gone on to something else, and then in the subconscious, there's that part of the brain saying, "Come on, I know I can remember that sort of thing, and it's gonna come out, and it's gonna be there," and then you'll be in the middle of something. And you'll say, "Burma." I started wishing this morning that there were 2 people being interviewed, so all the burden isn't on me.
You're up in an aeroplane or dining at Sardi's. All alone at Malibu, alone on the sand. You suddenly hear that bell right away. You can tell this could be the start of something grand.
I was sitting there waiting for the interview, which I was told would be 5 minutes after the hour. It sounded like they were just talking to each other.
So what happened on April 10th, 1970, do you know? April 10th, 1970.
Not a clue.
I just bet. I bet that our guest sitting upstairs knows. Do you know what happened in April?
And then all of a sudden I realized the camera's on me, I'm on the air, and they want an answer.
What happened? Do you know? April 10th, 1970.
To me or to anybody?
In the world.
Me, well, I was in high school and I heard the date, April 10th, 1970. I think it was a typical normal day, actually, so
Yeah? All right.
nothing like this. And I couldn't think of anything at the moment.
It was so perfect that it was probably inevitable. Bring on a guest with an amazing memory,
and he draws a blank on the very first question. Fortunately, the rest of the segment went more smoothly.
The episode of Dallas, Who Shot JR? When did the episode air?
It was November 21st, 1980, Friday night.
No pause? That's it? You just...
That's it, yeah.
The answer just comes that quickly.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes, like the date I was given a little while ago, if nothing really comes up, maybe that was just an ordinary day and nothing much happened. I can tell you April 10th of 1969, I won a spelling bee. So.
Sorry, hi.
Hello.
Did they just ask you the wrong year for April 10th?
I don't know.
We did take you by surprise, of course, so we were suddenly to be.
It's because we never asked questions that's the first time ever.
Oh.
But you did great. It was a great segment.
And with that, Brad was just another schmuck on the sidewalk with a crappy view of Maroon 5.
This is not a bad shot right here.
Something still nagged at him.
So April 10th was the county spelling bee, the local spelling bee?
It was the school spelling bee.
Well, that must be what they were trying to ask you about.
There must, but for some reason that does seem to.
There is a piece of cheese in the maze.
Cheese that hasn't reached the front of the maze yet.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we hadn't opened our town yet.
This is obsessive compulsive disorder.
So there was something in the world.
How'd you think it went?
I think it went pretty well, except for the opening when I wasn't aware that they were going to talk to me right away and ask me about an April day, which at this point still baffles me. April 10th, 1970. It does seem like there should have been something I would remember on that day, or something.
What day of the week?
Something. The day Paul McCartney quit the Beatles. We gotta tell Sabina that.
Quick run over.
Hi there. I just remembered what happened April 10th, 1970, and I haven't Googled or anything. It just occurred to me in the hotel room now, that's the day Paul McCartney left the Beatles. They're still on the air, so you can pass a note to them saying, you remembered it. The rat finally reached the end of the maze.
The Good Morning America.
Well, this is
I
how
don't
it
know
happens.
for sure that's what they were asking, but it just seems like the logical thing.
I don't think there's anything better than that, except what happened a few days later.
A few days later, April 13th of 1970 was the day of the Apollo 13 accident.
Right.
The Houston, we have a problem.
Which is remembered by most of us because we've seen the movie.
We've seen the movie.
Not because we remember
Tom
that
Hanks got
day
back to the earth.
when they had television and it was just before you guys' time.
Right.
So,
Well,
Now this is the thing that's been on the screen the whole time, is my brother Eric's documentary about this, which has been seen at some film festivals, but it is not in wide distribution yet, but we'll tell you a little about that later.
would you like to speak a little bit about that now?
Or we can speak about it now.
Yeah,
Sure.
why don't you tell them a little bit
Yeah,
about that?
there, once, Eric was the one who suggested that I contact Irvine about this, and very shortly after they decided to include me in the study, he is a screenwriter and has had connections to the movie business. He was one of the writers of the Dustin Hoffman, John Travolta movie Mad City, and decided he wanted to make a documentary about this. It's like, my brother is one out of a billion people. I've got to do this. And he spent the next 4 years putting together a documentary about not just what the study is and sort of a mini biography of me, but what happened, especially that one crazy year, which started with Good Morning America, went on to Jimmy Kimmel and Regis and Kelly and many other things. And 60 Minutes came a couple of years later, and I still get calls from shows asking whether I want to be on or not. And so this has not been seen nationwide yet, but we're trying. And the last thing that has to be done is to see if we can include songs like This Could Be the Start of Something Big, or actual clips from Good Morning America and Regis and Kelly that otherwise we might not have the rights to put in the movie. Definitely it would be a different movie if we didn't have that particular scene that we had there. And so we have a campaign on Kickstarter to finish the movie. And it's been a 40-day fundraising effort. It's down to about 2 weeks now. Expires on November 4th. And we have reached the 50-point mark. We're halfway to $10,000. And so if people in this room know of people with a few spare bucks, it'll help and that'll finish. And then maybe within a couple of years, we can get it out on, if nothing else, Netflix. But I know we've gotten an offer to have it shown on public TV, and certainly a cable channel. That would be nice. So I don't know that it's going to get out in theaters, but yeah, we'll see.
So if any of you want the opportunity to help underwrite a very interesting documentary, you can go to Kickstarter and look up Unforgettable, and you'll bring up the web space where you can certainly have the opportunity to make that contribution.
Minimum contribution $1.
Yes, I think the smallest contribution you can make is $1.
But of course there are perks at different levels that you can get.
Well, thank you both for this interview time. Really appreciate you taking this time to share these ideas and thoughts with us. And now, if it's okay with you, Brad, we'd like to bring up Google and just see if you can put your money where your mouth is.
We're going, going to see if you can come up with something else like April 10th, 1970.
Well,
that it's not going to be.
I don't know that we're necessarily going to try to stump you, but I think we can have an interesting
chair more this way, so I'm not looking back.
Exactly. Okay, let's see. Is that
I get to look.
Yeah.
Here. Okay.
But
Now.
Yeah. The idea is, Jesse is going to be there, and what we want from our vast studio audience is if you've got a particular date in mind, or if you know of something in the news or culturally is even better than just throwing out a random date, that you can see whether I figure it out faster than he can type it in and bring it up on the internet. And we'll see if I am faster than Google.
Can I give, sports, is any topic okay? Or?
Well, you can try sports. Usually we have on my radio station once a week, people get to ask me questions and I say no sports. But go ahead.
Okay, Father's Day 1964.
Father's Day 1964. Well, that June of 64, that would suggest to me either golf or baseball or something. But I don't know how far that is. I don't know. Sandy Koufax had a perfect game or something. I'm not sure.
You're close.
Somebody had a perfect game?
Yes.
Well, I'm not good at perfect games other than Don Larson, who threw his perfect game on the day I was born. That's
the same day my ex was born, by the way, so we have some issues about this.
Talk about psychology.
So,
well, it's Jim Bunning.
Okay.
Scored a perfect game.
Chase did.
All right.
Dates. Were
other than sports. but thanks for the suggestion.
How far back? I mean, is history?
Well, history, but I mean, you can. It works the other way. I mean, you can toss out an event and see if I get the date right, or if I get close to the date, and see what happens.
I was thinking September 15th, 1821.
September 15th, 1821. Okay, I'm not high on history. That
was like the 1600 one. That's
that's
not autobiographical. That's not.
It's not necessarily unless I've studied that in school.
Yeah,
but something. It would be more autobiographical within the last 50 years. Let's put it that way.
Okay, I got one for you. Nixon's first visit to China.
Nixon's first visit to China was February 1972, and I want to say it was around the 20th or 21st. It was right around the same time that the Winter Olympics in Sapporo, Japan began.
February 21st to 28th, 1972. You beat Google on that one.
Okay.
Good start. Other people questioned a date or an event?
What day did Star Wars come out?
Star Wars should be May 25th, 1977. I didn't see it until a couple months later, but...
Oh, now see, the problem here is, of course, there were 2 coming out
Yes.
of Star Wars.
Episode 4.
I saw that when I was in grad school. I remember
May
that was in
25th,
there. Yeah.
19, well,
Yeah, there it is.
yep, May 25th, 1977. All right.
Okay. More
How-
recent stuff.
How about, okay, and since this is horribly embarrassing as a writer, but I typed, like this. Okay, so let's see here. Now, don't look at this.
Don't look.
He's going to find it first.
Okay, who won the Academy Award for Best Costume Design in 1977?
Best costume design. Oh boy. It wasn't the person who, the Star Wars person, was it? Maybe it was.
You tell me.
I'm not the expert on the costume design. But the only one I could tell you is
Okay.
Edith Head in 1973 for the Sting. I think that's the only one I'd get.
Okay, how about, well, he was right, it is Star Wars.
I'm surprised to find this out.
Oh, Lord.
No,
Okay.
I mean, the other one, if you've still got 77, I don't know what you got up there. For 77, Best Picture would be Annie Hall, and Best Actress would be Diane Keaton, who I said hello to briefly in that Good Morning America clip.
There we go.
Okay, how about if,
significance?
Yes.
take us through the Academy Awards for 1972.
Take you through the Academy Awards for 72?
Sure.
Okay. Well, The Godfather was the Best Picture. Best Actor was Marlon Brando. Best Actress was Liza Minnelli for Cabaret. Bob Fosse won the Directing Award for Cabaret. Best Song would have been The Morning After from the Poseidon Adventure. For what? The supporting actors, I think, were Eileen Heckard and... Oh, no, I can't think of the other. Oh, Joel Grey for Cabaret.
Okay, I must have done something wrong. Because, a big shock, right?
Oh, wait a minute. Or is this from the awards for 72? The awards given out in 72, then we're talking about The French Connection and Gene Hackman and Jane Fonda.
Okay. How about Best Supporting Actor?
That year?
Uh-huh.
Ben Johnson. Last
Okay.
Picture Show. Cloris Leachman for Best Supporting Actress.
Best Original Screenplay?
That's a good one. Maybe Last Picture Show. Well, no, that's not original screenplay. No, I'm not sure about that one.
Okay, well, let's open it up to the audience. Anyone have? Yes, in the back, Dale.
Speaking of Brando, what was the name of the Indian woman who was at the Oscar ceremony and did not refuse to accept the Oscar on his behalf?
See that? Yeah, that was for the Godfather year. That was Sasheen Littlefeather.
Right.
Was the woman who got up and gave the non-accepted speech for Brando. And the picture, they show the picture of her saying, no, I'm not giving a speech, and giving the award were Roger Moore and Liv Ullmann were the presenters of that award, and they show them in the picture with her.
Right here. When was Sasheen Littlefeather born?
Oh, I don't know, 1945 or something.
Close. 11/14/1946.
And who would want to know that?
Yes. Not you, apparently.
To whom that does it have biographical significance?
Exactly.
Sasheen Littlefeather.
Obviously.
Any? Tomas?
So, Beckard Roger Moore, so how many Bond films was he in? What were they?
How many was he in? He had to be in about 5 or 6 of them. starting with Live and Let Die in 1973, and the last one was A View to a Kill in 1985, but he also did The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker and For Your Eyes Only. And Octopussy, I guess, is
Huh?
the other one.
Live and Let Die.
Man with a Golden Gun.
Uh-huh.
That might be all of them right there. I don't know.
Come on, computer. Okay, let's try a date.
Okay.
How about December 14th, 1968?
Okay, December. Do you have something
What day
in
of
mind?
the week was that?
That was a Saturday. And I can tell you something that happened on that date, which probably will not turn up on there. Would have been there was a. You could type it in and see if anything happens. There was a fire at Campion High School in Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin. Just type fire Campion 1968 and see if that turns up anything. CAMPION.
December 14th, 1968.
Now, again, biographical relevance here, but who the heck that wasn't living in Wisconsin at the time would care?
Because my dad always would go to, if there was a big fire anywhere, he'd take his 8mm camera and take a movie of it. And so he went down there that day.
How many plays did Shakespeare write?
Well, it was supposed to be 37. But they found a 38th one, which the name escapes me at the moment. But
37.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see here. How about April 26th, 1959?
You want day of the week or?
Well, yeah. First, tell us what day of the week that is.
April 26th. That wouldn't be your birthday, would it?
Nice. And what year were you born?
1991.
Okay. What day was that, Brad?
I can tell you more about 26/1991 than I can about 59. 26th of 1991 was Friday. I was on vacation in Boston that day, a vacation that I won for being on Jeopardy.
91.
26th of 86 was the Chernobyl disaster, April 26th.
That was the date of the Chernobyl?
Yes.
So you were born on the Chernobyl disaster?
Well, 5 years after.
The anniversary of it.
Yeah.
Not the actual disaster. I didn't cause it or anything.
What have I got going? Okay. Someone from the audience.
Oh, there's a question in the back, I think.
Is there? One more? Let's do one more. Okay.
January 22nd, 2008.
January 22nd of 2008.
Okay, what day was that, Brad?
Well, okay. I'm working on that one right now. Yeah, in my mind. I got to work forward sometimes on that one. January of 22nd of 06 would have been a Sunday, and so it would be Tuesday. And there was let's see. It was a week after I was on Good Morning America. But we were in the middle of primary seasons, probably a primary or something.
On that day, the nominees of the 80th Academy Awards was announced. Who were those individuals?
Okay. I think that was the year for No Country for Old Men. And would have been, I think Kate Winslet was up that year, and who am I blocking out right now? Daniel Day-Lewis for There Will Be Blood.
Okay. And who was the Best Supporting Actor nomination?
Best Supporting Actor was Javier Bardem.
And the Best Supporting Actress?
Best Supporting Actress, was that Tilda Swinton?
And the Best Actress?
The Best Actress was, I thought we already did the Best Actor, was Kate Winslet.
Now, Kate Blanchett was nominated.
Uh-huh.
But the winner was Marianne Cotillard, La Vie en Rose.
Yeah. Okay, I'm thinking, no, that Kate Winslet would have been the next year.
Well, we'll see about that.
would have been for 08. Yeah, Marianne Cotillard would have been. Yeah, because, okay, Kate Winslet would have won the same year as Sean Penn for 2008, and the same year as Heath Ledger for the Joker.
Oh, so those are the 81st?
Those are, the ones that were given out in 2009, yeah.
Kate Winslet. Heath Ledger. All right. Okay, well,
okay.
do we maybe have just one more from the audience that we can do, and then we'll call it an evening? Somebody want to throw out or how about, yes.
Michelle Obama's birthday.
Michelle Obama. Wait a minute, I think I did put that in the Triviazoids, and I think it's January or February, but I can't tell you the year. I'm not that clear on her birthday.
Do you know?
January 17th.
What year?
Yep.
I have no idea.
Well, it's who are the math folks? Because this year she celebrated her 48th birthday.
See, I was thinking it was 64, but I couldn't say for sure.
How about the day that Lambeau Field opened?
Lambeau Field. That should be 1957, but I'm not that hardcore a Packers fan that I would know the specific date for it. But
1957.
I went to my very first Packers game at Lambeau Field on November 14th last year.
What
Monday night game.
Do you know what the date of the first Packers game was?
Ooh, that I think that had to be like 1921. It was 20 or 21.
What was the day the Packers won the first Super Bowl?
Day the Packers, that was January 15th of 1967. First Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs.
And the score was?
And, let's see.
Come on, I even
And the ambient temperature was?
14-7. It's like, it was at the LA Coliseum.
And the second one?
The second one was against the Oakland Raiders, and that was should have been in Miami, I think, the Orange Bowl. January 14th of 68.
Here we go. This, maybe we'll...
And how quickly they forget the Packers won the first two Super Bowls.
Okay.
Not in Wisconsin, you know.
Who won? Who was in the 15th Super Bowl?
Okay, the 15th, well, that would be 1981. And if it was 1981, as it should be, then that would have been the Oakland Raiders and the Philadelphia Eagles.
And the score?
No.
Okay.
Played at the Superdome, which was wrapped around with a huge yellow ribbon because the hostages had just been released from Iran.
Okay, how about the 9th Super Bowl?
Well, okay, that would be 75, and I think that had to be the Steelers and the Vikings.
All right.
This is from a Steelers fan, of course.
Well, from me.
Yes.
All right, well, Brad and John, thank you so much for spending time with us. Really a lot of fun. And thank you all for coming. If you take a look on that back table, you'll find some pamphlets for other events that we've got going on here for the rest of the semester. And just as a little plug for next semester, any Seinfeld fans in the room by any chance? Yeah? Peter Melman, the senior executive producer and senior writer for Seinfeld, will be here for 2 days on February 18th. Just kind of a fun little event that we're going to have. But again, we've got pamphlets in the back there, along with the school's literary magazine, Fine Print, on the bottom shelf of that table. I encourage you to take one and come back out to Bowers again and see us. Thanks very much, folks, for coming out.